With the 27th pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Robert Williams III from Texas A&M University.
Anytime anything wrong happens, I say they're wrong because they were wrong. And were they wrong?
Are they wrong?
I think they're wrong 100%. Sometimes they're wrong. They were wrong. Sometimes they're wrong.
Who is your pick to be number 2 in the draft?
Michael Porter Jr.
I'm going to go with George Lucas, or whatever the hell his name is.
Luka Doncic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. Who do the Celtics draft?
I want to say Grayson Allen.
I'm going to go Mo Bamba.
My pick is Mo Wagner.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Yes, we were wrong a lot. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Slam Drunks podcast, presented by Bias Boston Sports. This is the Draft Tiers and Craft Beers episode. I am your host, Nick Piccioni. Tonight I will be drinking the Finest Kind IPA, sponsored by Smutty Nose. Smutty Nose hit me up for that sponsorship money. Joining me is my wingman, Pete Pikowski. Pete, what are you drinking tonight?
Got a nice little Corona premiere tonight. I'm trying to watch
very, very much a craft beer. I'm really glad that you were so committed to the one fucking gimmick I asked you to do. And of course, every night at the bar requires a DD. Tonight's DD is Ryan Kohlhofer. You may call him Darth Cauliflower. How are you doing, my friend, my lord?
I'm ready to roll.
And you better be fucking drinking water. All right, so to start the show, we're going to discuss something related to our final takes and how wrong we were, and that is take punishments. One thing that I don't know about you guys, but it drives me crazy is whenever some idiot with a microphone like Nick Wright is able to get on TV and spout random nonsense with zero repercussion, that bugs me. So in my ideal world, when we get something wrong, we're going to be punished for it. And so tonight I got, as our highest performing member of the podcast, I'm just going to throw that out there, I got one of our 3 questions wrong. So my punishment is I will be chugging one drink, and it's Twisted Tea, because god damn it do I hate myself so much. So while I do this, I'm going to let Ryan start and talk about the Celtics pick. And I'm always going to say Mitchell Robinson. I know it's not Mitchell Robinson, but I'm going to say that all night long. I know that it's Bob Bill, okay? It's Robert Williams III. It's Bobby Bill. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and get started while I do this shamefully?
Rob, Bob, Lob, whatever you want to call him. Robert Williams from Texas A&M is a Boston Celtic. And to be honest, I did not think he'd be on the board at 27. A lot of mock drafts had him going in the 12 to 16 range. Sophomore with a lot of balance, good rebounding ability, able to block shots. That's a great job right there, by the way.
Thank you.
And he should fit perfectly in with Al Horford as a mentor there, and in the pick and roll with Kyrie and Marcus Smart, assuming he's back.
I agree. So the thing for me that I wonder about is the fact that he slipped so far. Like, when players slip, there's always a reason. For Michael Porter Jr., it was obviously the injury report. Nobody really knew what was going on with his back, and that's why he was still available at, 14?
Yes.
So the question now is, why did he slide so much? And it's because of his makeup and his motor, which is not something that you really want to see your draft pick not have, considering everyone always likes to talk about 3-and-D in the motor. Those are the trigger words that NBA draft and analysts like to use nowadays. So it's a little concerning, especially since I came on last week and bashed the hell out of Mitchell Robinson because he was such an idiot and the motor was a question with him. And then they went and drafted a guy who also has motor questions. I guess the difference is that his skill level and his college experience is significantly more so than Mitchell Robinson's. So it's not a pick without risk, but it is the 27th pick, and there's only so much you can get there, even though the 27th pick seems to be very, very fruitful these last few years. But Pete, what was your thoughts on the draft? I don't know if you even watched it because you're busy doing Pete things. I don't know what you do.
No, I watched it a little bit. I think like how you said, just like it's so interesting in the draft. Like if you talk about the NBA, after like the lottery, even not even lottery, if you get out of like the top 12 maybe after that, it really doesn't matter who you pick because chances are they're not going to work out. And the Celtics, I guess it's kind of a good thing that they are picking back in the draft because it's showing that they're making progress through the regular season. I like Robert Williams. That's his name, right? Robert Williams.
Robert Williams, that's the name.
So I mean, I like, from what I've seen of him, I haven't seen a ton. I've watched some of his highlights. It seems like obviously he plays above the rim. He's kind of like your typical old school post player, which I like. I saw that his shooting from the outside is awful. And he only attempted like 43 pointers or something like that in his whole collegiate career, and he made like 2 or 3. So that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, his 3-point career was 2 for 30. That's not very good. I'm no math major, but that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, and like you were talking about too, with his like the character concerns, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a problem with this team because they have so many high character guys, and the chemistry around that team has been incredible for the past at least 2 seasons. And with Brad Stevens there too, I don't think that some 19, 20-year-old kid is going to be able to come in and completely change and destroy the clubhouse. But I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team because from everything that I've heard, his biggest problems are on offense, and they don't need him to be an offensive player when they have Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, all the guys coming off the bench. So if he can just play like awesome defense, to me, kind of reminds me of like DeAndre Jordan, where just you have a super athletic big guy that can run the court. But like you said, the character concerns of him coming in out of shape. I know we'll talk about it in a little bit, but him not even showing up for his press conference call this morning, like that's stuff that concerns me. Yeah.
So the thing with Bobby Bill, I'm just gonna keep calling him Bobby Bill. I know it's Robert Williams. I know he doesn't want to be called Bob. It's gonna be Bobby Bill. The thing with Bobby Bill is that in terms of his offensive ability, as Pete said, his offensive game outside is trash. And for the thing with him is for a post player, his post offense isn't all that far along. Like he's decent in the post, but his best ability is the lob and the dunk. So DeAndre Jordan is a pretty good comparison considering he's all about D and rebounds and he can't shoot a free throw to save his life. The one that people kept saying on draft night was Clint Capella, which I think is very wishful thinking, but I do kind of like that sort of direction. I think it would be interesting if they could get a guy of Clint Capella's standards on the team. I think that would be a really good pickup for them if he pans out. But obviously, the conference call, so apparently he was supposed to be on the call the night before when he was drafted, and they couldn't get a hold of him, so they tried to schedule one for this morning. And obviously he was way too hammered. I can relate. We've all been there, except for Ryan, because he's underage. He's our little cherub. But he didn't show up to the conference call, and they had to reschedule it for an hour later, which isn't a good sign for a guy whose big concern was his commitment to basketball and his motor. What do you think about the conference call fiasco, Ryan?
Well, Buffalo Wild Wings can do that to a guy.
Buffalo Wild Wings is a place of sin, so yeah, it's a place to make mistakes.
You see the video, he had a close to probably like 300 people in Buffalo Wild Wings. That's a hazard. That's a fire hazard to me. And just those are the concerns that scouts had over him, his commitment to playing the game of basketball. How invested is he going to be at the NBA level? And we're going to see soon. And it's good to have veteran guys like Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, Coach Brad Stevens, Danny Ainge. These are guys that know how to run the franchise. This isn't the New York Knicks. This isn't the Brooklyn Nets. This is the Boston Celtics. And I think he went to the perfect situation.
Yeah, I think it's good. If he really does want to be a good basketball player, there weren't many better places for him to be able to go, considering the direct mentorship he'll have with Al Horford being there, and then obviously the organizational structure all the way from Wick to Danny to Brad. Like it's a really great situation to be in for any young player, and obviously it's worked in the last few drafts. All of their first overall picks have panned out at least up to or above their draft position in terms of their draft class. So I think he is in a position where if he's willing to put in the work, he could definitely be an impact player, even in the limited minutes he'll be getting. And the thing to remember with him is that he came in freshman year with do you guys remember Jawan Johnson out of Purdue?
Dude.
He came in with a body like that, not NBA ready. He was pretty small. But the thing that ended up happening was that he grew into his body and he put on a ton of muscle mass his sophomore year. So clearly he's committed, if nothing else, then to get that big contract. But if that's really what he wants, then he's got to put in work for 5 years, and then he can fuck off and do whatever he wants, wherever he wants. And if that's all they get, if they get him to play out his rookie contract and they get, I guess, a ring out of it, then isn't it worth it, even if he's a headache?
I think ultimately, too, it comes down to, like we were talking about before, like where you're picking in the draft. If you have a guy that slides down for whatever reason, and he could potentially be like, I heard people saying that he was like a top 5 athlete in this draft. And if you can get that type of guy at number 27, like it's a low risk, high reward type of thing for me. Cause I want to know how many of those like back end picks in the first round actually make it to being legitimate NBA players that like can play in a rotation on a NBA, finals, if not winning an entire championship type of team. So in that sense, like I don't have really a problem with the move at all. The only problem with me is like when I hear that he has character concerns and he has out of shape concerns, and could have been a really, really high pick. It reminds me of Jared Sullinger.
I think that's an interesting comp, if not a scary comp, because I think what you have said has some merit to it. I think that's a valid concern, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Looking at the rest of the draft. Why not? I'll let Pete. What was your favorite pick in the draft? Like your favorite value pick, or what player you thought would make the most impact where they were drafted? What were your opinions on that sort of thing going on?
Well, I mean, I think everybody. I don't know, like if it's fair to say, like DeAndre Ayton, I think was the best player in the draft. He was drafted number 1, so that's my favorite pick, just because I think it was so obvious that it was there. I like Luka Doncic or whatever too. Like I didn't like him last week. Did some research on him, and I became like a pretty decent fan. And I hate to say it because I know I went on that entire rant talking about players over in Europe that suck. Mo Bamba going at number 6. That's good value, I think too. I heard a lot of people saying that there was no way that he's going to slide past 5. I honestly think like a Grayson Allen. I know we talked about him going to the Celtics. Like I like that pick in the late 20s. I was upset that he didn't fall to the Celtics. One of those guys that can really just shoot, play hard defense. I know that there were some character concerns again with him, but I don't have a problem with a guy being like overly, whatever you want to call it. I like that.
Overly a big, huge dick.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can say the same thing about Marcus Smart, really, and we love him here. So in that sense, if you guys win and you leave your balls out on the court, I don't care. I really don't.
And there's a difference between having a character problem on the court as opposed to off the court. On the court is easier to control than off the court. Ryan, what about you? What was your favorite pick in the draft?
Well, last week on the show, I falsely predicted Michael Porter Jr. going second in the draft.
Yeah, you're only about 12 off, my friend.
So he goes 14, and he's probably – I think he might be the most talented player in the draft. Obviously, you have the back concern and maybe the lack of motor, but that's a really good value pick. And I also like Jacob Evans from Cincinnati going to the Warriors. And it pains me to say that the Warriors got another good player, but I think that's a really good value there at 28.
The Warriors have the most annoying drafts because they always pick in bad spots and they always end up with a good player. I remember draft night last year when the Celtics were on the clock at 37 and Jordan Bell was on the board. I was so excited because I'm like, holy shit, they're going to get Jordan Bell. Jordan Bell is great. They draft Semi Ojeleye, who's fine, and he was ranked higher, so he was a better value pick. And then the Warriors trade up and get Jordan Bell for cash. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, again, like they always manage to swoop in and steal someone who's like really good in a position where they shouldn't be able to get him. Like that always bugs me about the Warriors. But I mean, fair play to them. There's a reason they're as good as they are. They draft really well, and they're really good at getting a cup sneaky bitch to sign with them. But that's beside the point. We're not talking about Kevin Durant tonight. Pete, what was the worst pick in the draft? What was the biggest mistake anybody made?
I mean, it's tough for me to say. I mean, if you look, there's so many different types of picks up in the first round that I looked at, and then I was like, oh, I don't even know. But I mean, for me, I know Mikey's going to hate this, but Colin Sexton going to Cleveland, I mean, for me, I'm just like, I look at
Wow, betrayal. Top 10 anime betrayals.
I know. For me, I'm just like, and then after, did you hear his pitch to LeBron? He was like, "Oh, please, let's do this.
Let's do this.
You got some like freshman douche that came from Alabama that's gonna come to Cleveland, and he's gonna try and persuade LeBron to come back. For me, I'm like, if I was Cleveland, I would have seen if I could, maybe even taking Michael Porter. At least that's the big, sexy name that everyone was like, oh, that guy has a ton of potential. For me, Colin Sexton's like, I think I really know what he is. I don't really think that he's going to become like Russell Westbrook. And I mean, I may be completely wrong on that. He's not going to be Kyrie Irving. And I think that's the type of guy that the Cavs need. So if you're going strictly based off of need, I think Cleveland having a top 10 pick and picking a guy that had a great year, but I don't see him being, an upper echelon type NBA player. For me, I think that was a big swing and miss.
Yeah. So for me personally, the whole 76ers draft plan boggled my mind. Like it was a really dickish thing to do to Michael Bridges, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Like I actually want to talk about it because it was really funny, but they maneuvered their draft picks in a way where they could afford. So originally they talked about this a little bit on ESPN, but in order for them to be able to afford LeBron, they have to trade Jared Bayless. That's a constant. And then from 10, because they were drafting at 10, they were going to have to draft and stash the 26th pick. And this is all like cap guru shit, but I'll try and explain it the best I can. Because they traded the 10th overall pick down to the 16th or the 15th overall pick instead, the amount of money difference that saves them allowed them to keep the 26th pick on their team and not draft and stash either in the G League or in Europe. So they're able to draft a player that they can actually use this year, and they pick Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet out of Wichita State. I know Wichita State had a decent program when Shaka Smart was there, but he's in Texas now. No one at Wichita State means jack shit anymore. Like, what are you doing drafting Landry Shamet? Like, you have two backup point guards on the team already in Markelle Fultz and TJ McConnell. You don't need this guy. Like, you could use this pick to either trade it and accrue more assets, or actually draft someone useful, like a wing, or maybe draft a backup big because you don't have one after. You don't have a good backup big after Joel Embiid. Robert Williams was sitting there. They could have taken him. Or you could have gotten another shooter, or taken Jacob Evans, like another good player. This pick really frustrated me because it looked like they were maneuvering so well, and then they pull this stupid shit and draft someone who's effectively useless. It's upsetting. Like, it's upsetting to me as a person who values intellect. Like, it was a really dumb move in my opinion. Ryan, I'm ranting. What are your fucking thoughts?
Well, back to the topic, I think that the worst pick in the draft.
Back on track, Nicholas.
The worst pick, I think, was Trae Young going, where did he go, 5th? And he got traded. So essentially,
this was going to be my other one. I'm glad you brought this up.
I just, once he had his 30 point per game, 50% from three, half the season, he really tailed off. Defense is starting adjusted to him. And his percentages went way down after that. And he's not very big. NBA defense is going to be a lot longer, a lot quicker laterally. And it's going to be harder for him to get his shot off in the NBA. He's a talented shooter, but I don't see the volume being there in the NBA game for him.
You see, the thing that disgusted me, it disgusted me that they compared him to Steph Curry. Yeah. Like, I'm not a Warriors dick rider. I know people who are, and it disgusts me. It was irresponsible for them to compare Trae Young to Steph Curry. Like, unfathomably stupid for them to make for Chauncey Billups, a man who is actually smart and whose opinion I respect, to give him as a player comp. Like, I cannot believe what I just saw.
Like you guys said too, the whole, like, his size is the thing that scares me the most from him, because you can be a great shooter in the NBA, but you need to be able to make your shot and get open. And I remember watching a game when Oklahoma was playing Texas, and I don't remember what his numbers were, but in the first half, he was shooting like crazy, and he had legit like no points. And they had Mo Bamba out on him at some point. So you have this huge guy, who's like one of the biggest wingspans in NBA history, up against this tiny little dude, and he had nothing. So when you have a team that's longer and faster and quicker on a guy that's just relying on his shooting, I mean, it's not going to work unless you're Steph Curry, and I don't think this guy's Steph Curry. And another thing, Oklahoma was a good program, but it's not like he's going to Duke or Kansas or Kentucky or one of these schools. So, I mean, for me, it's just like I said, if you have one of those like top 5, 7 picks, I think you need to have your board pretty much set to know as soon as the clock turns to your team, you need to know who you're going to pick. And if you're picking Trae Young, like I just don't see it, especially after like one great season. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty down on Trae Young. It also didn't help him that he was easily the worst dressed player at the draft. Like Jaren Jackson wore a suit that was he looked like he skinned a peach and several peaches and just kind of sewed it together Leatherface style. And he looked better than Trae Young because Trae Young wore shorts with his suit. This has to fucking stop. This is the most I understand that NBA fashion is eclectic and they get weird. This is unacceptable. I cannot watch grown men walk around in suits with shorts. This isn't the Kentucky Derby. Like, you can't get away with wearing your blue blazer and your obnoxious Nantucket red shorts. You're getting drafted. Like, this is like going to be an image that's immortalized, and you chose to wear shorts with your suit because you wanted to be different. You're fucking Zooey Deschanel. What are you doing? Oh my god. Let's talk about Mikal Bridges, because this was a really funny story, and you know how when you watch a video of a kid getting a kid at a skate park and he gets nut tapped and you start laughing? This was like that, but it then continues and you start hearing him scream and you're still laughing, but you're also thinking to yourself, I shouldn't be laughing at this. This is awful. Mikal Bridges grew up in Philadelphia, played his college ball at Villanova, which is, I guess, Philadelphia adjacent or in Philly. I can never tell. I didn't like it when I went there. And then he gets drafted by Philly at 10. And his mom works in HR at Philly. Like, this was a culmination of something great. This was like a really a feel-good moment, even for Philly. It's hard to have a feel-good moment for Philly, and this was it.
Yeah, and
an hour later, they fucking traded him. he didn't even know either. It took after the trade, after everyone on Twitter knew the trade, he didn't know for another hour that he was traded. He had to do that whole circuit of reporters and interviews they were talking about, still under the assumption that he was going to be a Philadelphia 76er. And he got completely fucked over by the organization that his own mother works for. I found it schadenfreuderly hilarious. I don't know if that's a real word, but you know exactly what I mean. Ryan, what were your thoughts on the Mikal Bridges situation?
It was so funny. And then I was on Twitter earlier and saw the Avengers meme where it's like, hey mom, I don't feel so good. It's just disappearing. It's so good. You can't get this stuff. I don't know. It's so odd.
It's
really
such
I have no words for it.
You didn't expect anything like this.
Just can't make this up.
Exactly. Pete, I'm sure you have some thoughts about this too.
Well, my bigger question is now, what does the mom do? Is she quitting? What? How do you go into work the next day? Yeah, my son, got drafted. We were super excited, and then you fucking traded him. Does she go back to work? Does she quit? What happens right now? I don't know. That's my biggest question. I don't care about the kid, because I think in the NBA it's kind of just I really don't care what team I play for as long as they get paid. But the mom, she can. There's no.
I think normally you're right that no one really cares where they play until they're second or third contract. I think it kind of mattered to Mikal Bridges where he played. Obviously, it meant something for him that he was getting drafted by Philly, because he said so in his interview with the lady who was sitting next to the stage. Yeah. He was so excited to still be in Philadelphia, and then he gets not only did he get traded, he gets traded to Phoenix. He went to death. They literally sent him to a burning hellscape. I feel bad, but it's also super funny. I can't help but laugh, because he's infinitely more successful than me just now, even though he hasn't made a single cent in the NBA. So I have to take my small victories where I can get them. Let's talk about Adrian Wojnarowski and his Twitter antics on draft night. ESPN told Woj to not spoil the draft picks, and I guess he didn't, because at the same time that he would normally report every pick about 30 seconds to 2 minutes before it was actually announced on TV, he would say shit like, "Ooh, Philadelphia is tantalized by the possibility of drafting Mikal Bridges, or fucking. My favorite one was he said that somebody was lasering in on picking something like just this inane, ridiculous shit, and it started off really annoying, and then it got memey, and then he just fucking stopped. He just quit doing it. Like, dude, you committed to the meme. You have to keep doing it. You can't just fucking stop now. The whole arc annoyed me in total. Like, it was legitimately annoying for the first like 10 picks, because have you ever seen Louis C.K.'s bit on when white women on CNN say the N-word? It's just another way of getting away with saying it. Like, you're not spoiling it, but you're absolutely spoiling every pick. And then he started to lean into it, and it got funny. And if he just kept going with it, I would have thought it was really funny. And then he just kind of quit. I'm like, oh, you didn't commit, so fuck you. Whatever. Pete, what were your thoughts on Woj trying to circumvent ESPN's bullshit rules?
Well, I mean, I think it's hilarious that he did it. And for some people, like, they live for that shit. It's like, I want to know 15 picks, and like, especially like if the NFL, it gets stupid then, because you have guys that like, it's like the beginning of the second round and like the end of the third is like what we're hearing about. So like, in that sense, like, I understand though why it pisses some people off, because like if you just want to be able to watch the draft, just a lot of people say just like stay off Twitter. And like I remember during the NFL draft, like Bias Boston, like everyone collectively stopped using Twitter, and we were on like Snapchat or whatever to talk about, just because you like the feeling of being surprised. But Woj like going against ESPN's back, especially when like all that shit went down, people were so pissed that he went there, and him kind of just like one-upping it on them. It was hilarious.
Yeah, Ryan, what were your thoughts on Woj's Twitter use?
I love finding out on TV and just having it on Twitter. Come on, man. I don't know what he's thinking. And even on TV, when they'd go to him before the pick, he'd also tip it off before. Not even through Twitter, on the TV before the pick was announced.
He just had some really. He wasn't tipping. He just had really, really good speculation, because he was such a basketball mind. Because the low key part that not enough people talked about with him doing his weird Twitter shit is it made Shams stop tweeting the draft picks. Like, literally, Shams just stopped tweeting like in the 20s. Like, I can't fucking compete with if Woj is gonna meme, I just have to stop. Like, I have to take this L and walk away for the night. It was really funny. The draft kind of annoyed me because it was so boring. There wasn't a lot of movement. Other than like picks were being moved, but no players were being moved. So this draft definitely was not as eventful as I had hoped for. There weren't any fireworks. I was really hoping that Kawhi Leonard was going to get traded so I could extend that little intro we played for another like 30 seconds. But yeah, let's move slightly away from the draft. Let's talk. I think I'm going out of order here, but let's talk a little bit about Dwight Howard, considering his trade involves some draft picks. It's an easy segue. So Dwight Howard was dealt from Charlotte. He's going to be Brooklyn Net, except he's not, because they're buying him out. There's some really, really, really scary rumors that the Celtics are interested in Dwight Howard. Pete, you're the problem here, so we'll let you go first, and then me and Ryan will scream at you.
No, dude, Ryan's with me. Ryan
better not be fucking with you. I swear to God, Ryan.
We'll find out when it's my turn.
Oh my fuck.
I'm totally in on this, because I understand what people say as being a problem in the locker room, and I think that is a legit concern, like completely legitimate. But if you're getting a guy that is going to cost pennies on the dollar, and he was a former defensive player of the year, he's exactly what the Celtics are looking for too. If he can play in like an Aaron Baines type of role, but being better than Aaron Baines, I mean, what's not to like about it? He plays underneath the rim. He grabs rebounds. He blocks shots. He's athletic enough to run the court too, which I think is something that Robert Williams doesn't have, and I think he's better at it than Aaron Baines. So if they can get him super, super cheap, and maybe even not necessarily have him in the starting lineup, but have him coming off the bench, which I don't even think he's going to agree to, so I don't think that this is a moot point. Like, I don't think it should even be a topic of discussion, because I think the Celtics are pretty set with their starting five, and it doesn't include any bum coming off the street. But if he's willing to take a role where he's the 8th, 9th man in the rotation, I'm fine with that. Bring him on.
I'm disgusted. Ryan, go.
Yeah, a lot of people around the NBA don't think Dwight Howard is a good player player because he gets traded all the time. Well, that's only because he makes what, $25 million a year, and this time he's on an expiring deal. And like this guy averages 16, 12, close to 2 blocks. This is Dwight Howard still. He's still a productive player in the NBA. He's still going to get his rebounds, play good defense. And in Orlando, I always remember him being that smiley, joking prankster guy. And all of a sudden he goes to LA, he has fits with Kobe. That didn't work out well. Houston, who knows what went on there. Then he bounces around a couple other teams, the Hawks, the Hornets. And here we are now getting bought out by the Nets. He's still a decent player in my eyes.
We all like The Office, right?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Here's a little Office trivia. Can you tell me who said this? No, God! No, please, no! No, no, no! No, no, Dwight Howard. I don't even want to dignify what you two have said with the response. Dwight Howard is a cyst on the hemorrhoid on the ass of the NBA. I can't fucking stand Dwight Howard. I hope I blew out your ears, Ryan. I hope you can't hear anymore. I see you reeling back there. But
I don't know what just came out of your ears. That's not good.
The thing with Dwight, like you brought up Orlando, and Orlando was built around him. And the thing with playing in Orlando is no one. Do you know how many other sports teams are in Orlando? None. Orlando is not a sports market. No one cares about basketball in Orlando. They made him care. He made them care, but in a way where they just wanted to watch and see if he could do anything. There was no pressure on him. As soon as there was any expectations and any pressure in LA, he folded like a wet, poop-covered fucking roll of toilet paper. And then he went to Houston, sucked, went to Charlotte. So Charlotte and Atlanta, where he was in his last 2 stops, those are places that are just desperate to like have people show up. And they traded him away because he was ruining their teams. Somehow he managed to ruin teams that were already ruined. I am so far out on Dwight Howard. I can't put it into words. If they draft Dwight Howard, or not draft, my God, this is what you guys make me do. If they go after Dwight Howard, I'm gonna be so upset. Like you just drafted your center with an attitude problem. You don't need another one. Like, come on. Don't do this to me. Don't make me root for Dwight Howard.
Hey, negative times negative positive in my eyes.
That's for you, Ryan. That's what I think about your opinion on this matter.
Wow.
Let's talk about something. Let's talk about something a little bit more cheery. Let's talk about Kyrie Irving maybe leaving. Kyrie Irving. We didn't cover the fact that he was on the Bill Simmons podcast last week because none of us can be fucking bothered to listen to Bill Simmons prattle on about whatever the hell inane shit that he brings up on his podcast. But I actually listened to it during the week, and it was really interesting to hear Kyrie Irving talk about his situation and what he wants to do in Boston. There were a lot of rumors swirling around last week that we covered a little bit. The talk now is that he really does want to stay in Boston, but it's kind of like what I said last week. He wants to stay in Boston, and what you guys said, he'd lose a lot of money signing an extension this offseason. So when you guys said that, you were right, because obviously he's eligible for the Supermax next year. So why would he sign an extension now when he could get another $30 million total, I think? So, Ryan, I'm just going to let you talk about – I'm going to let you go ahead. I'm going to let you redeem yourself with your Kyrie Irving opinion, and I'll let you talk about what Kyrie Irving is going to be doing and what you think about it.
Well, like I said last week, media blew this up. They needed a story to talk about, and it doesn't make sense for Kyrie to sign now. He loses, like you said last week, $80 million or something. And he's going to sign with the Celtics next year. That's my prediction. He's going to stay here long term and grow with this young core.
Yep, I like the sound of that. I'll let you go ahead, Pete. I'll let you try to redeem yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for if like I said last week, if this is strictly a monetary decision, there's no reason for him not to re-sign with the Celtics because he can make, I don't remember what the number was. It was like $70 or $80 million more if he re-signs with the team. Like we also said, it doesn't make much sense for him to sign an extension right now because he'd be losing a ton of money. I just want like some type of small commitment. And I think we got to hear of him saying foreseeable future of just saying, yeah, I'm really excited about this team moving forward. Can't wait to see what the next couple of years of growth show. Something like that. That's fine with me. And the rumors of a Kyrie for Kawhi swap. I know a lot of people have been talking about that. I mean, it makes sense from the fact that if Kyrie is non-committal and you think he's going to walk to New York or wherever, I mean, you almost have to get something for him. But I don't think that the Celtics are at that point right now. I think maybe, if the trade deadline comes around and this team is underperforming, then you can think about selling him. But right now, there's no reason to do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Kyrie Irving is definitely – I think the draft is pretty indicative of what their plan is for the season, and it's to go in with the full team and try and see what they can do. They didn't make any moves to draft. They didn't really try either. Like, there was no reports of the Celtics trying to move up during the draft at all. So I'm pretty sure that their plan is in fact to just see what they have with the 2 stars they're getting back from their playoff roster, adding another year of experience on Tatum and Brown. Horford's still there. They still have plenty of good bench depth. As much as I would like to see, as much as I love movement in the NBA because it's constant and it's a lot of fun to follow, I'm glad that this team's apparently to this point staying together the way it is, because it's exciting. We didn't really get to see it last year, so I'd like to see what this team's really made of. We are going to get Gordon Hayward back, and he will be back healthy in August. Reportedly by August 1st, he'll be fully healthy and ready to participate in all drills and activities. Ryan, how big is your boner for this?
It's pretty damn big right now.
I can see your camera's tilting a little bit. I think you're lifting up your table and kind of like tilting it back away.
I'm trying to shift around here, get comfortable. But, yeah, Hayward, it's a guy that a lot of Celtics fans have been dismissing as of late because they haven't seen him play in the year. They're kind of just throwing him into trade offers as if he's worth nothing. But this is an all-star, arguably a top 20, top 25 player. And he seems like a guy that can fit in any system you put him in. And I'm really excited to see how he fits alongside with this core next year. It should be really fun to watch.
Yeah, so obviously, if Gordon Hayward didn't go down, this team probably could have gone at least as far, if not farther than it did. But it was interesting to see the young guys develop, getting the minutes that he lost. And it will be interesting to see early on how the 3 of them at the wings, between Jalen, Tatum, and Hayward, gel together, because there's a lot of shots to be had on this team, and between Kyrie and those 3, that's a lot of shots going up and a lot of the ball to be shared. So it'll be interesting to see how they gel. But I think, considering the way that the team was able to do it without him, and the fact that he is definitely someone who could buy into Brad's system, considering that's what got him into the NBA. I think it's going to work, and it's going to be interesting to see how well it works. Pete, what are your thoughts on Gordon Hayward being back? Well, are you excited? I hope you're excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Ryan said, I think a lot of people don't understand how good that he actually is. Especially, I mean, he played out at Butler, which is out west, and then he played with Utah, which is out west. So a lot of people haven't been able to, especially in Boston, haven't been able to see just how good of a player he is. So if you're bringing that type of guy back to the team, you're bringing Kyrie back to the team, like we talked about. I mean, the starting 5 is pretty legit right now. I think they can pretty much go up against anybody in the entire NBA. In regard to like the shots and the number of shots that they're going to get up and stuff like that, that's one of the main reasons why I was so okay with them at least exploring the trade market for Jaylen Brown, because I obviously think this team is better with him. But if he is the main catalyst of a deal in which you're getting Kawhi Leonard, or if you were going to move up in the draft and get one of those big guys in the top 5 or whatever, I mean, that's the type of player that they need. And hopefully they got that in Robert Williams, and they were able to get it by not having to take anything off of this team. But that's one of the main reasons. Like I said, we'll just have to see how they gel, because we only saw it for 5 minutes this year. So it's going to be very interesting. But like we said, too, it's kind of like a hidden gem type of thing, because all of these young guys were able to get so much progression from their games. Hopefully we see more of that this year. Especially, this team is ready for the playoffs. We're not really looking at the regular season anymore. It doesn't really matter, you know? So it's going to be interesting, you know, come April of next year.
Yeah, I think that's all pretty valid. Let's talk about Kawhi Leonard for a little bit, because I think it was Bovada. I think you sent it to me, Pete. I think it was Bovada put out odds of where Kyrie, Jesus Christ, where Kawhi Leonard will be playing next year. And the Celtics were the favorite, which I thought was surprising, but also I thought it was surprising because a lot of times national media and odds makers sort of discount the Celtics and their ability to do – they put odds lower for the Celtics for whatever reason, I find. So it was surprising to see them have such high odds to get Kyrie Irving. I think it's most likely because of the news that they don't want to trade him within conference. But Ryan, I'll let you kind of expand on this and see what you think about the whole Kawhi Leonard situation and the LA thing that he's been talking about too.
Yeah, recently we've heard reports that teams have offered the Spurs deals, and the Spurs are kind of just declining it. They're taking them in, but not really counter-offering back. And, well, the Spurs have all the leverage here in terms of negotiating with other teams, or not in terms of never mind. I would say that this situation is just so weird because Kawhi is a free agent at the end of the season, and there's not much that people can get in return for a one-year rental. So we're hearing that the Spurs have advantages, Kawhi has advantages, and we're not really getting a clear picture because we're not obviously inside sources. So it's really hard to tell what they're going to do with him right now. But I don't see him going to the Celtics.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, especially it's really weird to see these two things happen simultaneously because the Spurs, for the longest time, have been the pinnacle of success and repeatable, sustainable success in the NBA. And obviously, we know the Patriots are that for the NFL, and both of them are kind of having identity crises at the same time. And it's really weird to see both of these teams having similar issues. I mean, obviously they're different because Brady's not going anywhere. It's not like the Patriots are losing Tom Brady. Whereas it's a realistic possibility that the Spurs lose Kawhi Leonard. I think that's part of the reason why they drafted, what's his name, Lonnie Walker, right? Yeah. The shooting guard out of Miami that could possibly replace Kawhi Leonard. I think they're preparing for him to, if not be traded, for him to walk at the end of the year and go to LA like he's been telling every team that he's been in talks with. Pete, I'll let you go ahead and talk about Kawhi Leonard a little bit too.
Zach Lowe was on Adam Kaufman's podcast at, I think it's CLNS, and he said that he thought that the Celtics would offer the Spurs Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Gershon Yabusele, the Kings, Clippers, and Grizzlies pick for 1 year of Kawhi Leonard.
They're offering Yabusele. I'm out. No Yabusele. You can't have the dancing bear.
So if that's the type of deal that the Spurs are looking for, then there is no way in hell, I think at least, that the Celtics should entertain that type of offer. I mean, you're giving all of the future. You're giving Marcus Smart, who's probably your 6th, 7th man off the bench. Marcus Morris, again, 6th, 7th man off the bench, and then it's just filler. Or Terry Rozier is another 6'7" guy off the bench. So you're
Terry Rozier is a legitimate trade chip that you're basically just throwing in there to match salary, which is insane.
And then 3 first-round picks. You're completely throwing away everything that you've tried to gain in these past couple of seasons to retool yourself and be ready for when LeBron either leaves Cleveland, retires, starts to decline, whatever. So you're cashing in every single chip that you have for 1 year of Kawhi Leonard. Now, I love Kawhi Leonard. I think he's a top 3, top 5 player in the NBA, wherever you want to put him. But, I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense. Even though it does allow you to keep your core 5 players, which obviously, everybody wants that. But that's way too much in my opinion.
You see, the first-round picks are interesting to me because the difference between the NFL and the NBA is that in the NFL, all picks are some level of commodity because they're all worth something because any player drafted anywhere or going undrafted, obviously, can be an impact player, can be a great player. Whereas in the NBA, it's very apparent in college who's going to be great, and you know that there's a finite amount of with rare exceptions, there's a finite amount of draft picks that are actually useful. Yep. So those picks don't have as much value as we might think as fans because of the protections around them, specifically for the Clippers pick, and 2, just because there's not enough roster spots for them to take all the picks they have next year. Like they should look to be dealing some of these. Like that should be something to look at the deadline when they're trying to acquire players. Is those first round picks have some value potentially in the future. It's a matter of how willing is a team to give up a player for a relatively unknown value of a pick. So I just think that's kind of interesting. Ryan or Pete, if either of you want to talk about the Celtics pick situation, you can go ahead. It wasn't on the itinerary, but I don't care. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, looking at the picks, that Sacramento pick I think is going to be pretty legit.
That's the one. That is the one that's actually legitimately valuable. You're right. That is a good point, Pete.
So if I saw a lot of people talking about like Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and the Sacramento pick for either Kawhi Leonard or to move up in the draft. So moving up in the draft, I saw people trying to get at like number 3, and that's the package that they were going to give up. If you look at the draft, Is there anybody in that draft that just happened yesterday that's better than Jaylen Brown? I say no. So in that regard, I don't see the Celtics doing that. Then the flip side of that is, do you want to trade however many years Jaylen Brown has left, 1 year of Terry Rozier and a potential top 5 pick for 1 year of Kawhi Leonard? And again, I don't think the Celtics should do that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on that before we move into the end of the show?
Also, that Sacramento pick, though, a lot of people are saying that next year's draft class is not as top-heavy, and there's not many top-tier guys. And I think you can kind of dangle that pick a little more, but it also makes it hard for Danny Ainge to move because the other executives also know that there's not many top guys on the board. So I think that pick has lost a little bit of value, but we're going to have to wait and see because these guys are still in high school. Once they get to college and step up their games, they can maybe raise the value of that pick. But right now, I think the pick's down a little bit.
Well, I think the unknown, too, of the pick, it could be – I think it's top 1 protected. So it could be number 2 or it could be number 22. Nobody really knows how good the Kings are going to be next year. I think everybody expects that they're going to suck. But the unknown of where that pick's going to fall, I think Danny Ainge could use that to his advantage. But to me, it comes down to, does he kind of want to roll with this team that he has right now, which I think every indication has shown us that he does want to do that, or does he want to, trade some of the assets that they have right now to go out and get 1 year of a player to try win a championship right now?
And it's also important. It's also important to remember how analytical all of the GMs around the league are now. The Celtics have had top draft picks for years in a row now, and they couldn't make any sort of deal until they knowingly had the top first overall pick. Like, that's what it took for them to be able to actually deal a draft pick and make a move that they wanted to. So, and a lot of NBA GMs and front offices are scared to move picks when they don't know what they actually are yet. So that's an issue. But if Danny Ainge can find a sucker that wants to take the Kings pick, and it makes the roster better, I'm okay with that. I just want to quickly get an opinion on this before we move into final takes. What was a more outlandish thing that happened this week? Was it Stephen A. Smith talking about butts or Swaggy P talking about legalizing cocaine? Ryan, which did you find more outlandish and more funny?
I think the Stephen A. Smith one was more funny than me.
You see, the thing with the Stephen A. Smith one is that he's been talking about butts for years. Pete, you told me this, right?
Yeah.
Expand on this, because I was unaware of this completely until you told me this.
He's an ass guy, and as a fellow ass guy, it's funny, but I completely agree with him, and that's why I think the Swaggy P thing is way more like, holy shit, like, okay, you were legalizing pot in some states, like, okay, I get it. What, you want to go on to coke? Like, what the fuck are you thinking about, Cracky P? So, like,
you see, my favorite little tidbit from that links the two of these together is, I think it's today, it might be today, is the 1 year anniversary of Stephen A. Smith talking about Phil Jackson's tenure as the president of the New York Knicks, where his first move as the president of the New York Knicks was to sign Lamar Odom. So I think it's just so funny. Like, this is what's great about the NBA is there should be nothing to talk about right now. Like, me and Pete do a Patriots podcast, and we haven't been able to shoot one for like a week and a half because all we'd be doing is doing retreads of the Brady shit. So it's so great that the NBA is such a it's such a soap opera and such a ridiculous entity that it's so much fun to talk about. Let's move into final takes, boys. So we're going to talk about 3 questions that you need definitive answers by that will be answered before the next show. If I get one wrong, I'm going to have to take a drink before the start of the show. Maybe someday Pete will too, but Pete's trying to get a fucking job right now because he's a nerd. So Pete is exempt for now.
Thank you.
And Ryan is our designated driver, so if he wants to take shots of water with me, that's fine. But for now, it's just me. As you can tell, I'm clearly the person who's in the most trouble right now, so we're going to wrap up the show as fast as possible. The first question is, will LeBron sign his option before the deadline on the 29th? LeBron has an option to sign with the Cleveland Cavaliers for $34.5 million for 1 year. This is referred to kind of generally as the Chris Paul option because Chris Paul signed his option with LA last offseason before he was traded to Houston. So I'll ask you guys, does he sign this deal, and does it facilitate a trade? You can also say if you think it's because he's staying or because he's trying to facilitate a trade. Ryan, you go first.
I think if he opts in, he's going to get traded. And I think it's a thing to do when he says, hey, Cleveland, this is my last gift to you. I'll give you a chance to get something in return for me. So he'll opt in and then get traded. But I don't know where.
So you think he's gonna opt in?
I think he will and then get traded.
Interesting. I like that's a bold move. Pete, what do you think?
No, I don't think he signs it. Not only do I not think he signs it, but I will predict that he's going to LA too. And I love that he's going to LA because that totally reignites the Celtics-Lakers rivalry. And then you have Kyrie in green, and then you have LeBron in purple and gold. That is fucking awesome. I don't think that they'll get past Golden State, so it probably doesn't matter because they won't meet in the finals. But I mean, that's still that the rivalry is going to be reignited.
Yeah, LeBron going to LA is probably best case scenario for Celtics, unless he's coming here, in which case it would be the best case for about 2 years, and then the team would probably be ruined. But I also don't think he's going to sign the option. I think he wants full control over his situation. I do like the sentiment, Ryan, that he would try and give Cleveland one final gift. I think that's a valid idea. But I also think that LeBron is at the point in his career where he doesn't actually give a shit about Cleveland. I don't think he's given a shit about Cleveland for years now. So I think that there's about 0% chance that he signs that extension. And if I'm wrong, the next week will be, or 2 weeks from now will be really fun. Next one. So we're probably not going to have another show until the 6th or the 7th of July. We're off next week. So in the meantime, Uncle Drew will be premiering in theaters on June 29th. And so I have to ask both of you, will Uncle Drew be a top 3? Will he be over under 3.5 rank at the box office for the weekend stats for Uncle Drew's premiere weekend? Ryan, what do you think about the Uncle Drew premiere weekend?
Oh, definitely under. There's no chance it goes over.
Under? Oh, you have little faith, Ryan.
It's going to bomb.
I'm going to go next because I'm a strong over. The NBA community is weird and they pay for shit. It's gonna be third. And the thing for me is I have no idea what it's opening up against. So there's a real possibility there are 3 juggernauts it's coming up against, and it has no chance. But I'm gonna be real positive here and say Kyrie Irving gets at least the 3rd spot in the box office for the weekend of the 29th. Pete, what do you say?
So I'm looking up the movies right now. Avengers Infinity. I mean, not Avengers. What's them? Jurassic Park. It's coming out tomorrow. So I mean,
here's the thing. It's the weekend. It's weekend stats. So it will be next weekend. Everyone who's crazy about Jurassic Park, hopefully will already see it, and hopefully I won't get screwed over. But what are you saying, Pete? What do you think?
No, I think he'll come in at 3. So
Pete's with me. Fuck you, Ryan.
Probably Jurassic Park, Incredibles, Uncle Drew, because like you said, NBA weird community. Plus, you have like those random fucking 12-year-olds that will come in like their Jordans that just want to see the movie.
And their LeBron jerseys from either Miami or Cleveland.
Well, that's all they have to do on like a Friday night too. So I mean, all kids go to like pre-teens, young teens go to the movies on Friday nights. So I'm gonna say 3. Yeah.
God, we sound so fucking old. Like Pete, we're 23. We're talking about the pre-teens. Well, those back in my day.
I did the same thing though, so I know what they're doing. Like that's what you do. Like you get out of 7th grade, you like have your best bro over, you play a little video games, go see a movie, then you have your sleepover. Like that's how you roll.
Pete, let me ask you, how does it feel to be closer to 30 than to pre-teendom?
Not great.
Right? Ryan, you're right on that cusp. You're getting close to that. Last question. This one is probably the one that I think is most interesting. Does Kawhi Leonard get moved before our next show? Anticipate our next show to be the 6th or 7th for you two to make your decisions. Pete, I'll let you go first.
Can I have a follow-up question?
You can have a follow-up question.
When does free agency start? Is it the 1st or the 4th or something?
I think it's the 1st, right, Ryan?
Yeah, 1st.
It's the 1st. Our show's the 6th or the 7th. You know, I'm going to say he gets traded.
You think he gets traded?
I do. I mean, the NBA is kind of weird. Like you watch like hockey, like these dudes don't even go to visits. They're like, I'm signing here, most money done. NBA is totally different because you have the max contracts and everyone can pretty much offer like the same thing. So you're gonna have the free agency period. I think it's gonna go a little bit. Ultimately it all matters what LeBron does, because if he drags this whole thing out, I think everything kind of gets drawn out because he's that first and biggest shoe to drop. But I'm gonna say that he makes his decision early, and then Kawhi's gonna get traded because I don't think it's irreparable at this point. I really do think that.
That's interesting. You'll find out if I agree with you in a minute, but first I'm here to let Ryan say his piece.
I was on the fence with this, but now I'm going to say he does get traded because I think LeBron's domino will fall before then, and then Kawhi and the Spurs are forced to make a decision for like cap space. It gets all wacky. So I think he does get moved.
Yeah, so partially to be contrarian, partially because I have no faith in LeBron being timely with his decision, I'm going to say he's not traded by the time that we get to our next show. And part of it is because I'm not sure he's going to get moved at all. I know the situation's pretty bad, but at the end of the day, $80 million is $80 million, and if he can get that Supermax in San Antonio, I think if anyone can convince him to stay, it's probably Greg Popovich. So I'm going to be the different person. I'm going to be the Trae Young here and say that he does not get moved by the time our next show airs.
There are reports, though, that Pop wasn't even going to stay. Like, he said he was going to be out after, like, 2020. So if Pop's kind of like, I'm on the fence, Kawhi's like, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. And he already said, too, that the Supermax doesn't really matter to him. I don't know if that's just him talking out of his ass, but like you said, $80 million is $80 million, so you have to stop and think about it.
Well, shit, I already made my final take. I guess I'm in trouble next week. But that is all the time we have this week. This show is about an hour, which is pretty good for us. We were about 40 minutes last time. There was a lot more to talk about this week. Any final things that you guys want to say, or are we just going to sign off now?
I want to talk about the Kevin McHale thing so bad, but if you don't want to do it, we don't.
Do you? All right, here. Well, we're at the end of the show. Only people who actually care about this shit will watch all the way up to this point. So we might as well talk about the Kevin McHale thing. So Kevin McHale was at a Trump rally, and it got some people on Twitter very upset. And then it also caused some people on Twitter to dig into Gordon Hayward's Instagram followers or some shit.
Like,
and somebody followed Fox News, which, ooh. So, Pete, you have an opinion about this that I think is pretty strong. So I'll let you go ahead. And I'll remind you that this is an apolitical show. We don't believe in politics here. We support anarchy and Satan. So I'd like you, I just go ahead and say whatever the fuck you want. It's 12:30. I can't be fucked to police you. Go ahead.
No, but the biggest thing with me is, like, I understand if people disagree with them because everybody's not going to agree with everyone. And at this point, too, like, if you disagree with someone, you can't persuade someone to finally be like, you know what? After believing in this for 20-something years, you're right. Fuck everything I believed in, and now I'm going to believe in this. So, like, people are pretty divided, and they feel the way that they feel. But and I understand people that lose respect for him or get angry at him because he supports someone that, you know, you don't necessarily support. But I kind of draw the line with people saying that he should get fired and that he's, like, ostracized from the NBA community now. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel similar to Kevin McHale in the NFL and baseball and hockey and in the NBA probably too. And I mean, it's just his is on a much more public scale. But he's a fucking, like you said, he's a commentator for TNT. So why would he lose his job because he went to a rally for the president of the United States? Like, I just don't get it, really.
So you see, the thing for me with this whole situation is people who are angry with the McHale thing, like they're not angry at McHale, they're angry at Donald Trump, and they're using McHale as a way in to get mad about it, which is fine. Like, I don't agree with that, but I'm also not going to get angry about it. The Gordon Hayward thing really fucking bugs me because I don't know her name. I think she's a sports reporter on Twitter. Or no, she's a legitimate sports reporter, but her Twitter account she's the one who tweeted out, "Ooh, Gordon Hayward follows Fox News. Oh, what is that about? Eye emoji, thinking emoji, whatever the fuck emoji." That fucking bothered me. Like, the fact that that someone might consume news in a different way from you is a notable problem to the point where you have to tell your tens to maybe hundreds of thousands of followers about it. That's fucking stupid. Like, if we're at a point where consuming information differently and getting news from multiple sources is a point of triggering, then there is no hope for political discourse in this country. I don't want to fucking talk about it because this is a basketball show, not a political show. And Ryan, if you want to say something, go ahead. If you have an opinion on this, you can definitely say it. If you want to tell me to fuck off, then go right ahead too.
Yeah, I mean, for both situations, like everyone now is soft and stubborn, and it's just ridiculous. You get these people who just they don't want to be persuaded. If you don't agree with something, just let it go. Don't start ripping into someone else. Let them be them. I'll end it on that.
Yeah, and the thing for me, it's both sides too. Like if I want, like, sometimes I like to watch ABC News. That's pretty neutral, slightly to the left. Sometimes I might want to go somewhere else that leans a little to the other side. Like, either way, you shouldn't be chastised for listening to news that way. And it's a problem. Fuck, this isn't even political now. This is just talking about the trust in media in fucking America. There was a poll that came out, like, today that about 60% of, I think it's about 60% of Americans don't trust their news sources and think that they're biased. And that equally high percentage perceives bias as untrusting or not trustworthy. So we're in a place that's fucking we're in a weird place right now as a country. I come on the show to talk about fucking basketball, so I don't really want to fucking talk about it. But like it's frustrating to see because we're better than this, but at the same time we're fucking not.
But like journalism in general, like I don't care what sport you're talking about, like people want to be first to get a story and they don't care if the story's right though. You know, that's the biggest thing with me. Like we see it all the time. We're like, oh, this trade's going to happen, didn't happen. But you get some random person that, you know, is a fake journalist or whatever, or someone bites on like a random Twitter account. Like Chad Finn did it a couple of days ago. It's actually super funny. But like people get screwed all the time because they want to be first to a story instead of just like being right. So that's my biggest thing. Like just like try and get the right story, not the quickest story. And like honestly, like who gives a shit? Just let anyone do what they want to do as long as they're not breaking the law. Like who cares? That's my thing.
Yeah, it's just like I'm in general frustrated with all the shit that goes down. But whatever. I don't like. It's almost 1:15 in the morning. I don't want to fucking talk about it. So unless you have anything else that's really fucking annoying to talk about, Peter. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Anything else, Peter Ryan?
No, I'm done now. You made me feel bad.
All right, Pete's done. Pete's done. Finally, my God. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. This is episode 2 of the Slam Drunks podcast. I think it went really well, even though it's a fucking long one. If you're watching at this point, then you're the real MVP. Fuck Kevin Durant's mom. But, yeah, we'll see you guys in probably 2 weeks. Thanks for stopping by. Goodbye. Get out. Go home.